Well, will Israel take out Iran's military capability? Will they choose more pinpoint airstrikes or potentially move to even assassinate Iran's leaders? Retired Israeli Defense Forces Colonel Miri joins us, now a senior fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism. Colonel, good to see you. What type of response? There's a variety of potential targets. What do you expect?
I actually don't expect something to be big and bombastic. I expect it to be smart and perhaps even covert. What the Islamic regime of Iran wants is for everybody to accuse Israel, for everybody to see Israel as the aggressor. And if Israel at this stage goes and attacks different sites that are completely within the realm, as you mentioned, oil rigs, harbors, but that will be shown as Israel attacking Iran's economic capability. And in that sense, I expect us to do something that will be on Iranian soil against the Islamic regime, something that's connected either to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or specifically the leadership itself.
If you're an Iranian official in the regime right now, wouldn't you be quaking in your boots? I mean, you look at what Israel has done. They allegedly took out Iranian scientists by having someone on a motorcycle drive up in rush hour traffic in Tehran, plant a little bomb on the window that blows up and kills and assassinates the scientists. They took out Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas, while he was staying in a Tehran guest house. It seems that the regime is riddled with the fact that Israel can potentially get at those leaders anytime it wants.
Isn't it something that we should all be happy about, that right now they're scared, that right now they feel that they don't have a safe haven? I would say that that makes the world safer. Having said all of that, just so that you realize how many conspiracy theories there are in the Middle East right now, the conspiracy theory running is that the Iranian Revolutionary Guards are the ones who killed Ismail Haniyeh because they didn't like having the responsibility and backing of Hamas inside Tehran. So there's a lot of questions going on right now. This is, of course, after the Islamic regime of Iran directly accused Israel of doing so. We have shown both directly and indirectly in the last year and a week an immense amount of capabilities, and all of this after the colossal failure of October 7th, 2023. And I don't forget that. But inside our capabilities, what has happened both in Beirut against all of the different leadership of Hezbollah, the leader was killed, the replacement of the leader was killed, the replacement of the replacement was killed, and all of those through targeted killings. And I say that because these are the head honchos who are designing, preparing, training the horrific terror attacks. And I hope that we continue to do so.
Do you think that the regime's leaders know that they have a target on their back?
I don't know that we're actually targeting those leaders. I do want to be clear that there's a difference between, with all of the due respect that I don't have for the Iranian Islamic regime leaders, but there is a difference between targeting the leaders of that country and between targeting what are their proxies, what are terror organizations worldwide. So in this sense, I would say that the Iranian Revolutionary Guards from top to bottom should not feel safe. Certainly nobody in Hezbollah, Hamas, or any of the proxies. It's hard for me to say right now specifically about the leadership themselves of the Islamic regime.
Well, I don't think you'd want to be an IRGC colonel or general at the moment, considering what Israel potentially could do. Meanwhile, as you know, the Biden administration is sending the THAAD missile system, anti-ballistic missile system, to Israel. U.S. troops will be on the ground in Israel. The THAAD system can take out a ballistic missile in space. Is that obviously an indication that whatever happens, Iran could respond to what Israel does?
Well, there's no question that you have to take into account that the Islamic regime is going to respond. This is not about talking and about just words. This is about action, and they'll do some kind of action. But the fact that the United States of America, with this amazing system, so advanced, so important, is doing something active on the ground with its ally here, Israel, that we are in partnership together against the Islamic regime of Iran, their missile capabilities, all of their different proxies around. This is very important looking into the future. I'm an oldie in that sense, and I still have memories over 30 years ago in the first Gulf War of the United States at that time sending Patriots, because those were the new thing. We're 30-some years later, and the new things are in these different types of air defense interceptors, many of them developed jointly because of both our joint cooperation, but because allies work together and defend each other, and that is very important.
Retired IDF Colonel Miri, U.S. stands shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish state. Thank you for joining us.
We feel so. Thank you so much.
Of course.